this week we read chapter 3 of Middle School, A Place to Belong and Become.
I feel like you're about to give a presentation.
And it was about belonging and becoming and organizing
It's like
schools.
the whole book is about that.
Holy cow. I thought it was really neat. Like the opening sentence was, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because you just like wander around and you can end up a different place than you would.
I feel
if
like
you
that's what
planned.
middle school is, though. It's
Yeah.
like, wandering around and trying to find your place.
It's true.
Or find your classes even in a more
Yeah.
literal sense.
Did anybody else like walk into a class they like were supposed to be in, and then you just like had to like do that awkward like walking out,
Yeah.
trying to make it obvious?
Hi, like, sorry, wrong
Middle
class.
school's a rough time.
And then something else that I highlighted in this was the first step in becoming like a good middle level school is knowing and articulating where you are now and where you want to go. So it's kind of like, just like for everything, you have to make a plan and you have to see like where you want to go, what your goals are, who you want to help, how you want to do it, just like all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, our job will be difficult because, like we talked about in the last chapter, it was like teenagers are going through these hormonal changes and they don't know like where they belong and who they are, and so we can make it a little bit easier for them when they're in school by organizing our classes and our schedule to help them, like for example, one of them that I really liked was saying, and it was a little later on page 41, they're talking about different structures that you can use, and at the first sentence of 41 said the multi-year structure provided additional support for students from adults they knew and trusted. So when I was in middle school, the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade honors classes all stayed with the same teacher and the same kids. Like your class never changed unless somebody like left or came in. And so by the time we got to 8th grade, like we knew the students and we knew the teachers super duper well, and we were able to learn so much faster, and we could do it like together. So things like that we can do as teachers, and because we can't always control like our schedules, but we can provide that closeness that students need to help them learn.
I think that was a really cool thing that your school did, but like that's not something that happens in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So like I
It's
feel like
true.
it's kind of like not a cultural shock, but just like a shock in general.
Especially going into high school, and like every year was different kids, different teachers, and it was kind of like,
It's kind of like when you go from elementary, I don't know if you had this, but there were 3 different elementaries for me, and then we all went to middle school, and it was like, who are you? Never seen you before, like what is this? And then you go to high school and there's kids coming out of being homeschooled, or kids that have to transfer in from like, for us it was St. Mary's, like a little school, Christian school that didn't have anything past. Yeah, so there's like that kind of thing that goes on. And how you were saying about building a better like middle school, on the first page, or the 35th page, or the first page of the chapter, it says the vision has to become understood, expanded, nurtured, owned, and supported. So it takes a lot to do this kind of thing. It doesn't just happen overnight. You have to put a lot of thought and effort for sure into it.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, I was thinking, a lot of times it depends where you get hired at.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go to a big city, you go to Columbus and like Columbus City Schools, your middle school is going to be totally different than say Mount Vernon or like my
Or
little
there's
Fredericktown.
one.
Yeah.
I was in
So-
a rural school too.
Yeah. So like we had teams in my middle school, so like I don't remember what they were, but they, for some reason, I look back on them and I think that they were set up so like depending on like how smart you were.
That's what ours
And
were too.
like when I was in middle school, I didn't notice that,
We
but
didn't
looking
know.
back, I'm just like, that's how it was set up. And I think it's a good thing, but I think when you go to like find a job in middle school, you kind of want to find a middle school that has it already set up, because it'll be hard to go into it and
Or
try to change things. You know?
Even like if you are looking at like 5 different schools, like you go to a city, you're looking at 5 different schools, and you're not obviously going to get a job offer from everyone, but you could have like the ones that you like better, like be like, you know, if you had to choose between 2, let's say like 2 of them wanted to hire you, and like one of them had a better setup that you liked than the other one, that's probably the one that you're going to go to. So definitely it's a lot of preference as far as where you go.
It said in the book that small personalized learning environments are the best for learning, and like you can see that in schools that are huge that have lower lower scores on tests. Not saying that testing is everything or like anything like that, but you can also see it like, I went to Cedarville first, which had really large classes, and my and then I came here to MBNU, and my GPA jumped like 0.6. So like having the smaller, more deliberate like classes where your professors know you and like the people on campus know you, even if you just transfer in and you don't know anyone, like people get to know you so quick that you'll have like so many friends in the first semester.
It's a little scary at
Yeah.
first. Yeah. Like everybody's so nice.
It was kind of like my high school, so I loved it. Like it was just so
yeah.
nice. I'm into that really community caring kind of thing. It also says that where students can collaborate on tasks, it helps them belong and become because they get to grow together, and it's not like just like if there is a group project, it's not just one person's fault if it tanks, like, which also sucks.
And you can help, as a teacher, you can help regulate that. You can, give each student an assignment maybe that works with their talents. Like, if somebody's like super artistic, you could be the illustrator of this like set of chapters or something. And so as a teacher, it's good to know your students and to know how they're gonna thrive in a group environment so that they can work together.
Yeah, smaller class sizes are better all around because then the teacher knows every student and then all the students know every student and kind of more like a, I don't know, kind of like a family type thing. Like you know everybody.
And it's easier to help keep it contained if things like start getting loud. Yeah.
For being a teacher, I think I would like apply this by like the groups. Like I like group work, or I would do like partner work, and if I had 20 kids, I would do like, I would line them up for like kids that are struggling versus not line them up, but like on paper I would write it down, and then like the first with the 10th and the second with the 9th and the third with the, so then they could help each other out, so like the gap isn't that big, and then you could do the 11th with the 20th, and like you could line it up like that so they could help each other learn, because it's always a little bit better peer-to-peer than a teacher just being like, why aren't you getting this?
Yeah.
So I thought that was like how I could and like apply it in my own classroom when that happens.
You guys mentioned about teachers collaborating with each other, and in my field experience in my middle school, we were in Clearfork, and every day during their lunch, they had, I guess they had teams. They never really told me they had teams, but they had like a whole team, so there was 4 teachers, and they would all get together on lunch and talk about like students during that time and how their classes were going, and students that were struggling. They're struggling in my class, oh well, they're struggling in mine too, to kind of compare.
For sure. I think that, and they mentioned in here, they're just like, when you're, I think it was toward the end, and it was saying how teachers have to be collaborative and inclusive, and so meeting during lunches, they recommended, they said that's a good idea. They said, but be careful that you're not like sitting around gossiping, that you're actually like promoting like learning and different tactics. They said more often than not, teachers usually just like chat, and they're like, it can be a really powerful way though to have your students be more aligned in their studies, like a history and an English, like as if we're in middle school, could sit down and they could have them reading, like the English class could have them reading something from like culturally the time period that they're studying in history, things like that to help line it up.
The book, talking about like collaboration, the book talks about how if a schedule provides more times for teachers to collaborate, then they will. But I went to the Dean's Conference in Dublin, Ohio on Wednesday, and they were talking about how that's actually false. Because the more time they have, the less people want to get involved because they don't, or the less teachers want to get involved because they don't want to have to do more work, or they don't want to have to like have more responsibilities put on them. So like, as much as I want to say that's like a great idea, like I can see that
more
it's
time
not.
in the schedule, you're saying?
Yeah, for planning and collaboration. The guy stood up and said that the more time you give them, the less time that they'll like actually try to collaborate, because they don't want to have to do more work or have to like go the extra mile. A lot of teachers,
especially if the teachers don't get along, like that does happen, and I've seen it happen in fields and stuff where like the two like 4th grade teachers just haven't been working well together, and so they're struggling to, especially because they're like there's all the students go to like one teacher for English and they go to the other teacher for like history, and so the correlation between the two is really tense, and so there's a lot of problems there. So I can totally see how like spending the more time together would cause more conflict, and so.
And also
Yeah.
teachers have a lot to do, like on top of their own stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, having to work with someone else, trying to figure out a schedule and everything that'd be hard, I think.
Starting out, I feel like it would be really hard. Once you had it figured out and like all the little kinks like smoothed over, I think it might be a little bit easier. But like starting out, it's kind of like an overwhelming mass.
Because you have to like know like when your students go to like an intervention teacher, like if like an intervention teacher takes like 3 of your students at a time, you have to know when that is. You have to know when their specials are and when lunch is, and like, oh man, he just the first year I think would be very hard.
I really enjoyed reading the 16 characteristics figure on 37. I don't know, I just thought that was really cool. And it said something about health and wellness are supported in the curricula, which I wish was more included, because like other than gym, where some people will just like sit around and do nothing, like there's not that much health and wellness, especially in middle school. High school you can take health in it actually is, but like in my health in middle school I learned CPR, but like that was like the most that we learned. So like it wasn't like, it was about saving someone's life, but it wasn't about like your health and wellness and like
eating habits.
Yeah.
And working out habits.
and with like how big mental illness is getting now, I feel like we need to kind of release the stigma of having something like that by teaching about it, so people aren't scared of it.
I think we should have, because like we have like PE and health, but I think, and I'm not saying that a whole degree needs to be, because you know PE and health are like their undergrad, they should be added to this, but I think we should have an entire class in both like one in middle school and one in high school just for mental illness. I think that would be really healthy, because in health class, you know, you have like sex ed and you have like, oh man, horrible things. And so you have to go through all of that. But mental illness is definitely a part of health, but it's like one unit, so you're gonna spend like a week on it. And it's often misunderstood, and so I think that by like collaborating, you can make the time to add that into a schedule. I think that's something that I would love to see.
And I think you could also work with like an English teacher, work with the health teacher, and like maybe read a book about something, maybe your teacher could have.
Or science too.
Yeah, in science, they could all work together and kind of.
They could do like one big unit on all of that. So they're all doing it in like the same week. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also, this was like curriculum is challenging and exploratory, integrative, and relative, or relevant. And relative, I guess, is the same thing.
Yeah.
But like challenging, I agree with that to a point, because if it's too challenging, then the students are just gonna give up and not want to try and not want to do it.
And it's hard because you have students who like are gonna be super medium and like a little bit challenging is gonna be perfect. This is gonna be the students who like are so above and beyond that like it's gonna be hard to like keep challenging them. And then there's some who are barely even able to keep up with the regular curriculum. So that's hard in itself, because people are just like, yeah, we need to make the curriculum challenging. And I'm like, well, are you targeting like the medium students? What are we gonna do about the other ones, the outliers?
Because in the last chapter it talked about you can't just teach to the middle or you're failing your job. Like, because you're not.
Because only like 50% of your students probably are going to be middle. Yeah.
Because you aren't like giving to the needs of all of the students in your classroom. So I think that's definitely something to like keep in your mind while you're like teaching, or that I'm going to keep in mind when I'm teaching, because it's just very, very important. On the next page it talks about like how to have a good middle school, kind of, which is, it'll be tough like going in, because like everybody's kind of set in their ways, like people don't really like change, but like they said that you need to consistently maintain these 5 common elements: the trusting relationships, the student's social and emotional well-being, teamwork, evidence-based decision making, shared vision, and goals.
I thought it was interesting how they're just like all 5 are synergistic in the sense that if even one of them is lacking, like the whole system is going to be corrupted. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
how
that's crazy.
they're not like, see how much you can get of all 5. It's like you need 100% of all 5, or everything is going to be lacking.
And I wonder how many middle schools actually have
Not
all
many.
5 of
Yeah.
these, you know. It's a lot, especially if you just go into middle school. I mean, if you're not the principal, you really can't
Yeah.
change anything.
Like a
As,
first-year
a
teacher, yeah.
They're gonna look at you and be like, no, we're
Yeah.
not doing that. Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's funny because it kind of works like a heart. Like you need all pieces of your heart for it to work and function. But like, if you like chopped off your like pinky finger, like you'd be okay. Or like my dad chopped off one of his toes when he was younger, and like he still can walk fine. But like, it's crazy to think that this could just throw it to the wind because it's just crazy. But I love that it says there's no perfect way to organize a school. Because like every school is different, every class of kids is different, every kid in your school district is different. Things change, people change.
And they stressed a lot about that every school district needs something different for their students, and no two are going to be the same. And then so when we were training to go on mission trips, they were just like, because we're in foreign countries and like we would catch flights, and they're like, absolutely anything that can go, like be prepared that if anything could go wrong, it will go wrong. Like just be prepared for that. And so going into it, there's like, you have to absolutely be okay with anything. And it's totally the same thing in your classroom every single day. Like you have to absolutely be okay with anything going wrong. You have to have a backup plan. You have to be prepared for it. And so they were just like, stay flexible. And it is so true. Like I can't count how many times my lesson has kind of been like, so we're like, okay, we're gonna try something else, like super fast. You just always have to be prepared for that. And then that will also help your students feel more like a part of the classroom and more like a team. And
Because you have to focus on your students, because that's who you're there to help.
Yep.
I don't know if I really agree with the whole like having one team and having the same teacher. Like you have like maybe 4 teachers all year. Because then when you get to high school, it's kind of like a shock. And I don't think it was in the book they talked about it, but the podcast we had to listen to, they said it's kind of shocking. Like they have an intro to grades, but they don't have an exit to grades. Like when you go into high school, it's kind of like, whoa, I have 5 different classes and they're all in different parts of the building. And
I had that shock in 6th grade. I remember my first quarter of 6th grade, I think it was like the hardest quarter of classes I ever had, because like you go from like 5th grade and like we only changed for math. Like we went up to another teacher, and then in 6th grade you're just like, I have 8 different periods and 6 of them are content classes, and like have homework in every class. And so I felt that shock when I went to middle school.
Yeah, I think middle schools can kind of prepare students more for the high school, because when you get in high school, it's kind of like a whole different world. Like there's more work, and the teachers kind of expect more. Where in middle school, they're kind of just laid back and
they're trying to prepare you. Yeah, I know. So I was in 4th grade last semester, and I'm in a 5th grade field this semester. And in 5th grade, they changed classes like 4 times a day in 5th grade. And I think that's more of a more modern thing, even since we've been in elementary school, where like they're changing more. And even in 4th grade, when I was in 4th grade, they went back and forth between 2 teachers. And I think that is helping prepare them for middle school. I think it would have been less of a shock for me if I had had that when I was in 4th grade.
When I was in elementary school, we actually had, when I was in 2nd grade, our classes were out in like motor homes, like outside, because our building wasn't big enough. So like we had to move around like that. And then 3rd grade, I just had one teacher, Miss Wilker, and then 4th grade we switched classes 4 times. And then 5th grade we switched classes 4 times. And then when I got to middle school, I switched classes 3 times in 6th grade.
Really?
And then when I got into 7th and 8th grade, you had to go up and down the stairs to find your different. And then when I got to high school, it wasn't as bad because there weren't 2 floors, and like they had the name of the hallways. Like there was a hallway painted purple, and there was a hallway like different colors. So like
nice.
that was like
I
a
like that.
really like I feel like it was set up very well because like I didn't feel shocked at all because I was used to moving by then. Even though in 4th and 5th grade it was just like one part of the hallway, but we still would go like science, math, language arts,
That's
social
interesting.
studies.
I had the same teacher for all 4 subjects in 4th grade.
Oh no!
And then
Yeah,
in
no, I
5th
have 4
grade,
different.
But at the end of the year, we kind of changed. And I think they were kind of preparing us.
Yeah.
And then like the year after me, like the grade they came up, they changed classes the whole time, so they were kind of transitioning. And then when I got to fifth and sixth grade, we're in one building. I just stayed in one floor the whole time. Like I never went downstairs or anything. That was kind of weird. And then when we got to middle school, I was like halfway across the building, getting lost.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so hard because you're like running. And it will give you like 4 minutes in between classes. You're like, I have to go to my locker. I have to go to the bathroom. And yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen a block schedule, so I don't know that I know enough about that to say.
I think we had block schedules when I was in school.
We didn't.
I think I did. Yeah, we did. When I went to my career tech school, we had block schedules because I got to leave at noon every day.
Oh my god.
Wow.
My senior year, I had to leave at noon every day.
That's
amazing.
Awesome.
It was.
I took classes here my senior year, so I did a lot of transitioning between, because my first, this is so dumb, I don't know why I scheduled it like this, but my first period class was at the high school, and then my 8th period class was at the high school, and then like, so in the middle of the day, I'd have to come over here and do my classes in here, and then go back to the high school.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, I did that. Yeah.
Just like closing, are we okay with that?
Yeah, I have a couple
Closing
notes.
thoughts.
So,
I really liked that when you're doing things, ask yourself, how can we meet the goals of our students in the way that satisfy our visions and beliefs, like to help them belong and become. And then it said, don't shy away from being flexible enough to make needed adjustments over time or to completely revamp it. Like sometimes things will go wrong, but sometimes they'll go right. So like it can go either way.
for sure.
And so I like that a lot.
Yeah, and the last thing it says is to ensure the outcomes you believe to be critical for your students. Like, no matter what, it's still all about the students. Not how to make your day easier. It's not like, it's how does my paycheck come faster. It's just, it's about the students. So I just said, like, it's still your classroom, and, like, you're still, like, in charge of it. Make sure you do what you feel is right for your students, and then make sure to be flexible so that you can change. Don't be in the mindset of, like, we've always done it this way. You have to, like, be ready. Yeah.
Do you have anything?
No.
Awesome.